Itai Go Premanande. Jayam Vishwapad Paramahams Parivajagacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Srila Abhay Charana Vrinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahams Parivajagacharya Stotra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Prem Shinamacha Shri Haridas Thakur Ki. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन धाम की श्री मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री गंगा माई की यमुना माई की श्री भक्ति देवी की Shri Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution Ki. Itai Go Premanande. All glories to your assembled devotees. All glories to your assembled devotees. All glories to your assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. You can think that people who are following should wear a mask. And you have got to speak to God. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for attending this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 30. Verse number 31. But before we recite the verse, we recite the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's text 31. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grihanagaditam Maya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grihanagaditam Maya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grihanagaditam Maya. Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grihana Garitam Maya. Word for word translation. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The personality of Godhead said, Jnanam, knowledge acquired. Parama, extremely. Guhyam, confidential. Me, of me. Yat, which is. Vijnana, realization. Samanvitam, coordinated. Sarahasyam, with devotional service. Tat, of that. Angamcha, necessary paraphernalia. Grihana, just try to take up. Gaditam, explain. Maya, by me. Translation and purport by His Divine Srila Abhayacharana Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. Purport. Lord Brahma is the topmost devotee of the Lord within the universe, and therefore the personality of Godhead replied to his four principal inquiries in four important statements, which are known as the original Bhagavatam in 4 verses. These were Brahma's questions. 1. What are the forms of the Lord both in matter and in transcendence? 2. How are the different energies of the Lord working? 3. How does the Lord play with his different energies? 4. How may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him? The prelude to the answers is this verse under discussion, wherein the Lord informs Brahma that knowledge of him, the supreme absolute truth, as it is stated in the revealed scriptures, is very subtle and cannot be understood unless one is self-realized by the grace of the Lord. The Lord says that Brahma may take the answers as he explains them. This means that transcendental knowledge of the absolute supreme being can be known if it is made known by the Lord himself. By the mental speculation of the greatest mundane thinkers, the absolute truth cannot be understood. The mental speculators can reach up to the standard of impersonal Brahman realization, but factually, complete knowledge of transcendence is beyond the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Thus, it is called the supreme confidential wisdom. Out of many liberated souls, someone may be qualified to know the personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is also said by the Lord himself that out of many hundreds of thousands of people, one may try for perfection in human life. And out of many liberated souls, one may know him as he is. Therefore, the knowledge of the personality of Godhead may be attained by devotional service only. Rahasyam means devotional service. Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita because he found Arjuna to be a devotee and friend. Without such qualifications, one cannot enter into the mystery of the Bhagavad-Gita. Therefore, one cannot understand the personality of Godhead unless one becomes a devotee and discharges devotional service. This mystery is love of Godhead. Therein lies the main qualification for knowing the mystery of the personality of Godhead. And to attain the stage of transcendental love of Godhead, regulated principles of devotional service must be followed. The regulated principles are called Vidhi Bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, and they can be practiced by a neophyte with his present senses. Such regulated principles are mainly based on hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord. And such hearing and chanting of the glory of the Lord can be made possible in the association of devotees only. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended 5 main principles for attaining perfection in the devotional service of the Lord. The first is association with devotees, hearing. Second is chanting the glories of the Lord. Third, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the pure devotee. Fourth, residing in a holy place connected with the Lord. And fifth, worshipping the deity of the Lord with devotion. Such rules and regulations are parts of devotional service. So, as requested by Lord Brahma, the personality of Godhead will explain all about the 4 questions put forward by Brahma, and others also which are parts and parcels of the same questions. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'll read, today we're reading from chapter 2, text 9, answering by citing the Lord's version, text 31, read the translation. The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So we are just at the onset of, not the next verse tomorrow, but the verse after that. The next 4 verses we describe as the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So the Lord explained to Lord Brahma, or in one sense the Bhagavatam was described in 4 verses, the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So that starts from text 33. So in the previous verse, Lord Brahma asks the Lord about his inconceivable relationship with his energies. Or in other words, maybe explained as, in other words, there's nothing but the Lord, and still the Lord is different from all his manifestive activities. Or, as Lord Chaitanya described, the Achintya Bhera Bhera Tattva. So, in this verse, the Lord gives a hint of what is to come in the following 4 verses. And Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhagavad Sandarbha paraphrases this text, or the purport of this text as follows. And it starts off, the Lord describing to Brahma that please accept the knowledge that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking this knowledge. It's no one else, but it's me who's speaking this knowledge. So that's the Lord speaking to Lord Brahma. And there are 4 key points that are mentioned in this verse, and if you just go through the purport, I'll just offer like just bite-sized information, which is first note to be discussed here is the Lord describes jnana or gyan. Knowledge of the Lord's form, of the personal form of the Lord, is more confidential than the realization of the impersonal Brahman. And actually, if you really see in the world today, there are so many different philosophies that are just meant to decry the personal form of the Lord. It seems they all have a mission, that there is no personality, in the absolute truth is not a person. And it'll be in various different philosophies. There's so much of word jugglery that if you just hear them for just 5 or 10 minutes, you'll come out more confused than even how you went in. There's one very famous Srila Prabhupada pastime, and I'll get into the technicalities of these different points here, but this very sweet and humorous pastime of Srila Prabhupada, in which Srila Prabhupada he was invited to some Vedantist conference in India. And in that conference, there were all these Mayavadis, and I heard this pastime by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And in that conference, all these Mayavadis had a similar tilak. Because this was a lecturer, I really couldn't see how was Maharaj describing it, but they all had this one kind of tilak. And maybe just one, if I understand it correctly, it was just one line, just one tilak. I can't describe it more than that, but if I understand, all the Mayavadis were just having this one tilak, so, and obviously all the devotees had the Vaishnava tilak. So these Mayavadis and there was a crowd of at least 5,000 to 10,000 people that were attending there. So at that very moment, these Mayavadis were speaking. Each Mayavadi's, guru was actually speaking for at least an hour or so. And as they were speaking, they could see that the people in the audience were just yawning, like, oh my God, what's happening here? So as soon as it was Prabhupada's turn, Srila Prabhupada goes up to the podium and just speaks for 2 minutes. And then he motions to the devotees, chant kirtan. And the devotees started ushering in kirtan, playing with the instruments. And all of a sudden, within 5 to 10 minutes, devotees started to jump and dance. And there was a little devotee kid named Baby Saraswati. She was the daughter of His Grace Shamsun Prabhu and Her Grace Malati Prabhu. And she started jumping too, and she went and sat in the lap of one Mayavadi guru. And the Mayavadi guru they were so flustered that they just walked out of the stage. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, at that time the entire stage was just cleansed of all Mayavadis. It was just the devotees. And the devotees started dancing, and then the motion to the crowd too. Then they started dancing. They started participating in this kirtan. And it went on for about 45 minutes or so. And Prabhupada then motioned for the kirtan to end. And he spoke for only 5 minutes. And he said, all I'm saying is the chanting of Krishna's name is the Yuga Dharma. And by doing so, one will gain all knowledge and realization. And look at these boys and girls. I've done nothing but just introduce them to this chanting of this Maha Mantra and see how they are so blissfully executing the process of bhakti. So please take to this process. And people seeing the potency of the mantra, of the Maha Mantra, and how it has transformed these people, they took to the process. So it's Srila Prabhupada who brought these teachings of the Lord being a person, of Krishna being, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how we are all His eternal parts and parcel. We are His servitors, and our perfection lays in accepting that principle of servitude. And we in our conditioned state now, we can't realize that, but as soon as we take to the process of bhakti yoga, we will soon realize our constitutional position. So, coming to jnana, that how the personal form of the Lord is furthermore confidential than the impersonal Brahman. And if we see this text here, and in many places, I think in other places, to Prabhupada says that the impersonal Brahman realization is a very high realization. However, in today's philosophy, in the philosophy around the world today, we don't even see people who are true, Brahmavaris, who are actually wanting to worship Brahman. But we find philosophies, that are so corrupted by just, Prabhupada would say, just bogus. And one such philosophy is the Buddhist philosophy. And I was reading just this morning how Lord Chaitanya defeated the Buddhist philosophy by argument when he met with the Buddhists during the Lord's pastime. It's actually described very beautifully in chapter 9 of the Madhya Lila. And I'll just summarize the key points there that are described in text 49. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text 49. And it is described that how, even though one cannot really approach or understand the absolute truth by logic and argument, because one can only realize that by the grace of the Lord through the process of devotion service, but however, as followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we should be trained in logic and argument to defeat such philosophy. So, Lord Chaitanya systematically defeated each of the tenets that is described in the Buddhist philosophy. And the first tenet being that creation is eternal. So we don't need to accept a creator. So creation is eternal, we don't need to accept a creator. To that Lord Chaitanya responded, well, if you're saying that creation is eternal, then there should be no theory of destruction or annihilation or dissolution. Because in the Buddhist philosophy, one says that the ultimate truth is just dissolution, dissolving this material body and just reducing to zero. And that is total absurdity, because we see in our material life, in our material experience, we see that something that is created has an end. So there is a creation and then there is an end to it. However, and if you expand that same principle to the cosmic manifestation, this cosmic manifestation is also one gigantic body. So it is created at a certain time and then there will be a dissolution. So if you believe that at a very micro level that there is dissolution of the body, then if I expand that principle also, there is to be a dissolution of this cosmic manifestation too. And as soon as it's dissolved, then there is a creation. So if there is creation, as you see that there is an interval between, there's creation, dissolution, and creation, there has to be a creator. And the creator has to be outside of this creation. So the Lord exists outside of this creation. He's supreme, He's created this material manifestation, and He is not composed of matter. Because if He were if He is a part of this creation, which means that if He's created as a result of this creation, then it wouldn't make sense, because someone who's outside of this creation creates. So similarly, Lord is complete spirit, and even in our material existence, we see that matter rests on the base of spirit. Basically, spirit gives rise to matter. For example, if I'm sitting here with this mic, if I have just the pure ingredients or whatever is needed to manufacture this mic, it is me who will give shape to this mic based on my intelligence. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated this argument that there has to be, if you say there's no, if the creation is eternal, then there's no value to your argument that there is annihilation. Secondly, they say that the world is false. Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that this world is not false, but it's temporary. If this world, for instance, we may experience certain pain and pleasure in this body. We may at times have a headache, we may have a toothache, we may have whatever we're experiencing. They are factual, we are realizing it. We experience those different pains and pleasures, and it's temporary, it comes and goes, so it's not false. Third argument is that they provide is that the philosophy of the I am is the ultimate truth. And the counter argument that obviously the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu provides is that I am is the argument rests on the fact that you're arguing with someone. There has to be a second person, which means I am, and then there is a you. An argument only happens between two people, or there is exchange only between two people. So there's this individuality. So this I am is incomplete without a you, which again comes to the principle of individuality. The Buddhists do accept the philosophy or the process of transmigration of the soul, but they do not really speak much of the next birth. For example, they say this body is dissolved, but what is next? And as we understand, as the jiva, as the atma, we are the atma in this body, and we transmigrate from one body to the other. So as the very moment our lifespan in this body comes to an end, we move on to another body, and the next body is determined based by the higher authorities, higher functionings of nature, in one of the 8.4 million species of life. So there's always the fact that we'll be getting another body. Obviously, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our acharyas describe that it depends on what kind of body do we want. In this, we can end this material existence and then be reinstated in a spiritual body. Lastly, the other point that they make is the teachings of Buddha are the only way. So this very fact that my way is the only way was actually also propagated by the Buddhists. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that just by this very own doctrine of my way is the only way, it's not, that means your philosophy has to be perfect. But we find so many defects in the Buddhist philosophy. And secondly, Lord Buddha rejects the Vedas. So how can we accept that philosophy that rejects the Vedas? We understand, obviously, as we're reading this purport, that there is, at the very beginning of creation, Lord Brahma is known as Adi Kavya. He's the one who received the knowledge of the Vedas in his heart by the Lord. So the Vedas are coming down from not a person of this world, right? In a sense, not a person created this world. It's coming from Adi. It's Adi Purusha. It's coming from someone who's beyond Maya, beyond the realms of matter. So it's perfect. So, and plus, if we were to say Lord Buddha's teachings are the only way, there'll be so many other doctrines who will say our way is the only way. And all that you'll see is arguing and counter-arguing. And that will not establish the basis of the absolute truth. Lastly, they say that compassion and mercy is actually the highest truth. One should always be merciful. But obviously in our experience we see that mercy is only extended to someone who's less, you can say, less fortunate or less, who's in a suffering condition. How do we extend mercy to someone who's above us? On the other hand, we become the objects of their mercy. And the very understanding of mercy that's described by the Buddhists is actually relative. What do you mean by mercy? For example, someone who's sick and he's suffering from diabetes, they'll be craving for sugar, they'll be craving for some sweetmeats. So does it mean that if I'm merciful, I'm going to give them sweetmeats? You don't. You're going to give them something that's prescribed by the doctor or what's actually good for them. So in that similar way, the very definition of mercy is relative. The highest mercy is to give someone the highest absolute truth, which is the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to make them understand that Jiva Swarupa, Krishna Nitya Das, that one is eternally a servant of Krishna. So these are some of the points that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented to them, to which they accepted defeat. The Buddhists accepted defeat. And actually the story doesn't stop there, it goes on. The Buddhists then, because of what had just happened, they transpired a plot against the Lord, where they brought a plate of, they called it Mahaprasad, but it was cooked by a Vaishnava, and it was offered to the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya immediately detected that this was not prasad. It wasn't offered to Krishna. And at that time, a large bird came, and he just took the prasad. He just took the plate away, and the bird dropped the prasad on the Buddhists, and then dropped the plate on the leader of that Buddhist group. And as the bird dropped the plate on the Buddhist guru, I think it hit him, and he just felt unconscious. And at that very moment, the Buddhist disciples just felt, they were so disturbed by it that they went up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please do something to bring our guru back to consciousness. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, please chant the names of Krishna. And then they chanted the Mahamantra, and then they became very jubilant. And he said, go and chant the Mahamantra into the ear of the guru. And as soon as they chanted the Mahamantra into the ears of the guru regained consciousness. And when the people who were observing this pastime, when they saw this, they became astonished, and then they realized the potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then that moves on to the next part of the text that's being described in this. So first is Gyan, that this Gyan about Lord's form is confidential. Second comes Vigyan, realization. And this realization only happens by the Lord's grace. Or the grace of the devotees. So as we saw earlier, as we saw just a few minutes ago in the Pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that these Buddhists, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur describes in the purport that as soon as the Buddhists chanted Hare, as soon as these Buddhists started chanting Hare Krishna, they became different people altogether. They became Vaishnavas. And how? Because of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So similarly, we are sitting here, and a lot of times someone asks, what are the effects of chanting Hare Krishna? And we tell them, well, why don't you chant Hare Krishna for yourself and see how it works for you? And when they start chanting Hare Krishna, when they start taking the process of bhakti, they realize that how some of the anarthas and impurities that they had is now slowly dissipating. And they see how the process is working. Thirdly, the point that's mentioned here is the word. It's beautifully described here. The word is Sarahasyam, which is Rahasyam, which is secret. And what's the secret? That is, the goal is Prema Bhakti. And actually, in this month of Damodar, we read in the Damodar Ashtakam, in the 4th verse, O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours is Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart, for what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? So this very secret, or this most confidential aspect of perfection, which is us desiring to attain the goal of Prema Bhakti, is actually a secret. And it's but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, this secret is now available to every. it's being made available by the grace of the devotees who are sharing this knowledge in every town and village. And I was hearing a lecture by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he says, in this day and age, the yajna is to please the Sankirtan Yajna Purusha, that is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We go from door to door, distributing books, telling them, asking them to chant Hare Krishna. And that gives them access to what is a secret in the Vedas, and then they can experience Prema Bhakti if they take to the process sincerely. Lastly is the word known as Tat Angam. The paraphernalia and the means to attain that secret, or that most confidential secret of Prema Bhakti, is Sarana Bhakti, which is regulated devotional service. So, like I said, we are all we take to this process of bhakti under the process, under the guidance of the spiritual master, Diksha and Shiksha Guru, and try to follow the instructions to the best of our ability. And we see that how slowly, and by the mercy of of the acharyas, we make some advancement in devotional service, and we understand. And what is in chapter 15 the Bhagavad-Gita nicely described? What happens when we start practicing bhakti? There are two things that happen automatically. One is detachment from this material world and attachment to Krishna. So we become attached to Krishna by practicing sadhana bhakti, to regulated devotional service. And especially, and bhakti seems inconceivable to us. How is it that just offering in this month of Kartik, we come in front of Lord Damodar, we offer him a lamp, we offering a devotion to him. And how is it that this act of what to a mundane sense of just offering a lamp to Damodar burn away our sinful reactions and gives us the opportunity of going back to God in this lifetime. It's inconceivable to a mundane sense, but on the absolute sense, on the absolute plane, when you see it when we hear from the word, through the eyes of the Shastra and the Acharyas, we realize that this is meant to happen. Once I was, Ganjan Prabhu was mentioning to us that he was speaking to His Holiness Devamrita Swami, and how he was mentioning that when he would go to, he was telling Maharaj that when I go out on book distribution, I see people, and they all look very happy. Some people look very happy, and I'm not sure whether I should offer them a book, and what do I tell them? Take this book and you'll be happy, and they'll tell me, oh, we're already happy. Don't give us this book. Rather keep it for someone who'll benefit. And so Ganjan Prabhu was saying that at times he's caught in this dilemma whether to approach them or not approach them, because you don't know how will they react. And Maharaj said that you're seeing them happy because you're seeing them through your eyes. But you need to see through the eyes of the Shastra. And what does the Shastra say? That everyone is suffering in this world because of lack of Krishna consciousness. So if you're convinced of that very same principle of seeing through the eyes of the Shastra, then you'll be able to see through their happiness, which is nothing but suffering. So we see through the eyes of the Shastra. We beg the Acharyas to give us their mercy for us to be qualified to serve Krishna, to serve the Vaishnavas. Okay? So, like I said, this text 31, the Lord gives hints to Brahma or what's to be spoken, starting with text 33. So, you know how at times when a movie is being released, there's a trailer just telling what the movie is about, just in a very bite-sized information. Similarly, here to the Lord is giving a slight trailer, just a slight preview of what's to expect. So, be tuned and starting from verse 33 to verse 37 are the original verses of the Bhagavatam, which Srila Prabhupada really emphasized for us to deeply meditate upon, for us to appreciate the Bhagavatam and appreciate the gift that's being given to us. Okay. That's I will end if someone has any question or comment. Yes. Yeah. That's I remember once I was seeing a YouTube clip of His Grace Jananivas Prabhu in Mayapur, and he was training some devotees in deity worship, and then he was explaining, the intricacies of, how to dress the deity, and then I think one Mataji asked, but how do you really, I understand these are, to some extent these are externals. How do you understand, how do you gain that knowledge? How do you have access to that? How do you improve, or one sense, what will make one good at or appreciate deity worship? How does one make advancement in deity worship? And he said, bhakti, devotional service. Just approach the Lord with the mood of service, and that'll enable us to be more qualified to do so. So, the qualification is devotional service. Without that, or else you'll see, if obviously you've read through the Chaturshloki, and I'm sure the Mayavadis would also find ways to interpret these words too, but there's so much of word jugglery that happens, and it doesn't benefit anyone. Rather, like I said, the Lord says, you take this information as I'm speaking to you. That means that it's me who's giving you this information and no one else. And so we accept this knowledge coming down the disciplic succession, and that's the way to for us to become qualified. Rahasyam, yes. Yes, it's a mystery. Yes. Yeah. It's a mystery. What is that verse in the Bhagavad-Gita? Only by knowing this one can enter into the mysteries of mind. It's chapter 6 or chapter 9? 9, yeah? Yeah. Thank you. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.